Recording now. Okay, we are recording. Hi, everyone on Facebook and on Zoom. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Krista Gervon. I'm Communications Director at Princeton Integrative Health, and today I'm joined by Dr. Conny Garefino, who's our chiropractic care practitioner and functional medicine practitioner. And today we are kicking off our D.R.E.S.S for Health Success series. Thank you again for joining us. This is going to be a 5-part series focusing on the 5 pillars of health. Again, in the weeks that follow with myself and Dr. Conny, you will learn about simple, effective strategies that you can start implementing immediately in the areas of diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation, which is D.R.E.S.S. And those combined together create balance and homeostasis within the body. These are practical tools which are necessary to support and rejuvenate the body. And it doesn't matter which stage of fitness you are currently in, what type of health conditions you struggle with, whether you are stressed out, fatigued, depressed, gaining weight, or suffering from any other health complaint. This information can help you move in the right direction. Now, I mentioned a word that some people may not know, which is homeostasis. Dr. Conny, can you give us a little bit of background of what homeostasis is?
Sure. Thanks for that introduction.
No
Your body is really cool in that it is a phenomenal orchestra of cells, organs, systems, and energy. In order to function, all of these systems must work together to maintain a state of something called homeostasis. So in other words, our bodies are constantly striving to be in harmony and balance. When the body is in balance and it's in homeostasis, it operates with ease. Therefore, if you don't feel great, it's a sign that something is out of balance and homeostasis has been interrupted. Our bodies have an innate desire and ability to be in homeostasis, which is a state where all of our systems are balanced and stable. So homeostasis is equal to health. A disruption in balance has a domino effect, and it spills over to other functions in the body, which eventually leads to the symptoms that you're probably experiencing. This state of imbalance causes our bodies to operate in a state of dis-ease, not disease, but dis-ease. In this state of imbalance, but this is the state that causes almost all diseases. When we're in dis-ease for too long, disease follows. This is why in the practices of integrative medicine, chiropractic, and acupuncture, we address the hidden stressors that disrupt homeostasis instead of just chasing and treating symptoms. We seek to restore function and aid your body in healing itself so that it can return to a state of ease.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so today, of course, we are going to be talking about the first pillar of health, which is diet. It's the D in our D.R.E.S.S for Health Success. So let's get right into the diet component. So important. It's what fuels us, right? So Dr. Conny, what are the 2 principles we need to incorporate into our diet before we can even get started on thinking about like which foods we should eat or which particular food groups to stay away from or get more of?
Sure. So the 2 most important principles in eating like a balanced whole diet is, number 1, that the diet has to be made up of real, whole, nutrient-dense food. And the second one is that we need to eliminate the foods that can cause stress to our bodies. These may, for some individuals, include what are considered healthy foods, but might actually be a trigger for you individually, as well as removing junk food or processed foods.
Wow. Yeah. So we're gonna give a couple of fun facts throughout this this chat today, and just off of your point about junk food, 1/3 of Americans get 47% of their calories from junk food. That's like 1/3 of Americans getting half of their calories from junk food.
Yeah, which is a crazy statistic. And you think about the word calories in that sense, because we always want to remember that a calorie is not equal to a calorie is not equal to a calorie, right? So 1 calorie of sugar is certainly not equal to 1 calorie of broccoli.
Right.
They're very, very different.
Great point. Yeah. So that was just like a mind-blowing statistic. I know that we have a pretty we have junk food that's regularly in American diet, but I didn't realize it was that high. So okay, so we know what junk food is. What is real food? Can you elaborate about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's pretty, I mean, it's a, I guess, hard thing to start to encourage or encompass in your diet, but it's pretty simple. If it looks like food, if it sounds like food, it tastes like food, then it is real food. If we can't pronounce the ingredients, if we don't really know where it came from, if it was made in a lab, then it's not real food. So think, we aren't as humans just from the earth, but we're of the earth. So when we need the nutrients to fuel our bodies to create that homeostasis, the building blocks of our bodies are found right in nature. They're exactly packaged up the way that we need them and in the food that we need to be eating to experience our best health. If you think about ancestral type diets, where we were hunting and gathering for our food, think about that when you're thinking about real food. So plants, animals, animal things that come from animals, things that we can grow, those are real foods. The more we get into the processed, chemical laden colors that don't really exist in nature, like Doritos or Cheetos,
Mhm.
that's not real food.
Right.
um, the agricultural revolution started to change our diets forever. People, they started to settle down, they stopped hunting and gathering as much, they were more in one place planting food and raising livestock. We became less dependent on hunting and gathering. So, and the more that we farm our soils, the less nutrient dense our food becomes. So making sure that you're sourcing your food properly is really important, and making sure that you have a good kind of approach for most people is going to be leveraging a plant-based,
Right.
paleo type, Mediterranean type diet with lots of fruits and vegetables, lean meats and or proteins, and lots of healthy fat.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great point about the ancestral diet. Another fun fact is that hunters gatherers in the Australian outback today, so 2021, live on 800 varieties of plant food, whereas modern Americans live principally on three, which are corn, soy, and wheat. Not cool.
I mean, that statistic is mind blowing,
Yeah.
really. And when you think about that amount of diversity, it leads into not only just, I mean, how mind blowing that statistic is, but the amount of diversity that those people have in their gut microbiome,
Great.
the wider range of fruits and vegetables, plant based materials that we eat, the higher amounts of fiber, it increases the diversity and the density in our microbiome, the amount of bacteria that live in our gut. 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. So if it's not fueled properly and there's not enough bacteria and broad range of bacteria in your gut, your immune system's going to struggle.
Great.
So it also, I mean, eating that many different plants is going to increase the amount of fiber that people are eating in their diet. And I think the FDA recommends 28 grams of fiber daily, whereas those more ancestral type diets, they're eating closer to 100 grams of fiber in a day. Fiber is what feeds the bacteria in your gut. So we're severely lacking in the standard American diet.
Right. And when your immune system isn't getting what it needs, it's not going to be able to protect you. And that's why we see so much illness and chronic
Exactly. Back to homeostasis.
pain. Right. So, okay, let's get down to the bare bones. What should we eat then?
So when we think about the foods that we should be eating on a daily basis, one of the best resources that I give to patients on a regular basis is Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen list. He goes through most of his recommendations are more plant-based, but he goes through everything that you should be eating in terms of plants every single day. So we want to be having 3 servings of beans, 1 serving of berries, 3 servings of other fruits. Berries are so high in antioxidants that they get their very own category. 1 serving of cruciferous vegetables, whereas we recommend 2 servings of greens, so spinach or collard greens, and then 2 other servings of different vegetables, whether those be carrots or peppers or something along those lines, flax seeds, or if you're eating meat, it could be fish. or olives or things like that to get in our omega-3s, nuts, spices, and then grains. And then if you're an animal eater, using that meat as more of a side dish and having the majority of your plate be filled with plants is really the best rule of thumb to go by. Making sure that you are getting fruits and vegetables into mostly every meal that you're eating, and using meat as more of a side dish that most people will do really well with.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. I'm actually currently doing the metabolic reset program, which has shown me that my proportions, more than anything, have been what was I had been doing wrong anyway. Whereas the meat was kind of the main event, and then I had some vegetables on the side. But now I see my plate, and it's almost, I mean, it's more than half vegetables, and then I have my 4-ounce piece of meat, but I still feel so nourished and full after it, and it's
Yeah.
amazing.
And then your fruit on the side every time you
Yeah,
eat.
and then of course the 4 ounces of fruit, but it's like a little bit of dessert almost.
Right,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, going by that rule of thumb, and that 3/4 of your plate being plant-based materials, 1/4 if you're going to eat meat, then have it be more of a side dish.
right. Yep. Okay, that was so much good information. I wanted to just also, because we talked about how you know the food that we're eating um, feeds into the immune system, and can cause either our immune systems become healthy or not. But how do we know how certain foods will affect us, and taking into account our immune system and the condition that it's in?
So we can do this in a couple of different ways. One of the easiest and least expensive ways to do this is going on an elimination diet and removing the most common triggering foods, which you can find, right online when you kind of do a search. But removing those foods for about 6 weeks, anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 months, and then slowly adding those foods back in one at a time to see how you feel. Charting it, tracking it, keeping a journal as you start to add foods back in is really going to give you a clear picture of what it is that you're having a hard time with. We can, in functional medicine, we do food sensitivity testing as well, which at that moment in time gives us a really clear picture as to what foods you may be reacting to. In both scenarios, as a functional medicine practitioner, I utilize reactions to foods as their symptoms to me. So if those symptoms don't get better within about 3 months, we really haven't reached the root cause of what's going on. Most people shouldn't be reacting to most foods. We certainly have some people that have more allergies to foods, or actual, anaphylactic allergies. But sensitivities are very different, and sensitivities can change from week to week based on how our immune system is functioning, based on how our microbiome is working, and how diverse it is. One of the hardest things is when people come into the office and they say they want to go completely vegan, and they've been used to eating, much more heavy animal protein. We can't do that overnight, because your microbiome has to change in order to support the breakdown of the foods that you're giving it. So you have to make slower changes, which is why the elimination diet is really pretty nice, because you can do it over time, and it really gives you a good idea of what you may still be struggling with after a period of time of removing it.
Wow, that's such good information. And just going off of what you said, like what your sensitivities may change. Would that have anything to do with possibly like over time with our agriculture changing too? Just because
Absolutely.
there's some information in the guidebook that suggests, a Kushi Institute analysis of nutrient data from 1975 to 1997 found that an average calcium levels in 12 fresh vegetables dropped 27%, iron levels 37%, vitamin A levels 21%, and vitamin C levels 30%. And then they also concluded that you would have to eat 8 oranges a day to get the same nutrition that you would have gotten from consuming just 1 orange in 1950. So
Mhm.
clearly, there's been some change over the years. I don't know if that has to do with sensitivity issues at all, but clearly we're not getting a lot of the same amount of nutrients from our food either.
It absolutely does. I mean, that's a multi-layered
Right.
issue, because number one, our farming practices have depleted our soil of nutrients, but without the nutrients, we can't digest food. So even if we have nutrient lacking foods, we still are lacking the nutrients even in the food that we're eating to digest the food that we just ate. It's like this, terrible cycle that we've fallen into. So paying attention to the source of your food is so, so important. Making sure that if you can, it's local, it's more organic than not, so that there aren't synthetic pesticides, which really mess with your microbiome. And, organic farming practices, they replenish the soil with nutrients. So the nutrient density of your food increases when you're eating a higher organic diet, which is overall going to help with,
Right.
the amount of nutrients that you have in your system.
Right. Oh, so much great information given out today. So now that everyone has gotten all of that information, what are some tips that you can provide to them to start improving their diet today? I mean, obviously we've gone over a lot of that, but is there any last bits that you'd like to part with?
Yeah, so I mean, we talked already about, buying and consuming whole foods. We also hit on considering the source of your food,
Yeah.
so important. Not just plants, but also the animals that you're consuming, paying attention to where they come from. I always recommend steering clear of diet trends. Being consistent with your diet is the most important thing that you can do. Making sure that on a daily basis, you're hitting that Dr. Greger's daily dozen, or at least coming very close to it, and is going to overall improve your health over time. There's nothing that's going to change your life overnight
Right.
when it comes to diet. So staying clear of diet trends and going on, sort of yo-yo dieting type things, it's really going to cause your blood sugar to be unstable and mess with your metabolism, and you're not going to be able to digest your food or handle stress or sleep properly when your fuel is all over the place. One of the best things that we can do is cook our own food. We know what's going in it. We can control the ingredients, and we know where it's coming from versus eating out, which even in the most healthy scenarios, we still, we didn't source it ourselves. There's probably something in there that we aren't used to eating. And if you're sensitive or you're dealing with, trying to figure out what are triggering foods, eating out is going to be a little harder to control what's going in your food. Making sure that we eat mindfully, paying attention to the food that we're eating, sitting down to eat, chewing enough times. We don't chew our food nearly enough. We're, especially I know as a busy mom, I'm half the time chasing a toddler around or in the middle of picking up food that my baby threw across the kitchen. So trying to be mindful and present when you are eating, and when you decide to make maybe the less healthy choices, do it mindfully. Make a decision about it and sit down and enjoy that,
Right.
Little piece of cake or cookie or whatever it is that you're going to eat. Don't feel guilty about it, but don't, stuff it in your mouth and then feel really guilty about it 2 minutes later. Sit down and enjoy it. Be present and mindful. Making sure you're drinking enough water is huge. You'll find this out as you're going through the metabolic reset, but so often we confuse hunger with thirst. And what's one of the biggest tips that we give our patients going through the metabolic reset is, if you feel hungry and it's not time to eat, try drinking some water and see if you feel less hungry, because a lot of times it makes a big difference. Making sure that we, making sure we maintain our good glycemic control is also really important. So avoiding sugars and alcohol and, processed carbohydrates that are going to cause our blood sugar to shoot up and then drop back down, which is it's going to mess with our energy throughout the day, and is going to ultimately lead to more of a disease state. So eating lower glycemic foods on a regular basis, as opposed to those high glycemic foods, is going to be really helpful in maintaining glycemic control. And lastly, I encourage patients to keep a journal, especially this is so important if you're going to decide to do an elimination diet of any kind, or we always encourage our patients that are going through metabolic reset to keep a journal, because then you can track your symptoms based on the things that you ate. If you notice that you're feeling more sluggish or fatigued, or you're having a hard time the next day, or your joints are feeling swollen, you can look back at what you ate the day before and think, oh, well, maybe there was gluten in that sauce that I ate or something like that, and now I'm feeling joint pain. You can start to track the symptoms based on the foods that you're eating, which will give you more insight into what you as an individual should and shouldn't be eating.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So much good information today, Connie. Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. If you are on Zoom, you can unmute yourself and just ask yourself. But yeah, thank you so much. Again, this is going to be a 5-part series. So next week we'll be here at the same time and we'll be talking about rest, which is the second pillar of health and how crucial it is to that homeostasis that we talked about today. I don't see any questions on Facebook or here, but if you'd like to make any last minute announcements or words to end with, please feel free, Dr. Connie.
Well, I just want to say, if you are experiencing symptoms that you haven't gotten answers to, whether it be from your conventional doctor or you're just really curious about more of what we do in the office, we offer free discovery calls. They're 15-minute discovery calls with one of our practitioners in the office, and we can really see if what we do in this office is right for you and if we can help.
Yeah, I put our phone number in the chat. So please give us a call if you have any challenges or struggles that you're going through. 609-512-1468. And you can also check us out on the website, www.princetonih.com. And you can learn about all the different services and programs we have to offer. Otherwise, we will see you next week at 12 for our rest episode.
Thanks, Krista.
Thanks, Dr. Connie. Thanks, everyone, for joining. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.